And that, my brothers and sisters, is how you top off a difficult week. When you've had a week where you've been to Gethsemane, when you had a week where you've been betrayed by a friend, when you've had a week where it's time for your crucifixion, we do remember that without the crucifixion, there can be no resurrection. And so we celebrate on this morning the resurrection of Christ. One of the things that I personally appreciate and admire about the master teacher and way shower Jesus Christ is that Jesus always took people along with him on the journey. If you are familiar with his story and you're familiar with his narrative, very rarely do you see him traveling or going at it alone. I think he understood the importance of making sure that what you have in your soul is passed along to others so that when they meet the same challenges, they won't have to call you, but they'll know how to take care of it themselves. I appreciate a teacher who says to us, "These things that I do, and greater things than these shall you be able to do." And so here we are faced with our opportunity to have our own personal resurrection. Repeat after me: I am coming out. I am coming out. I am coming out. As we prepare to enter into this lesson, I want you to know right on the front end that you have everything that you need in order to make your radical resurrection. Resurrection is not for the faint of heart. Resurrection is not for the meek or mild. Resurrection is not for people who are happy with the status quo. Resurrection is not for those who have resigned themselves to the places or the conditions that they find themselves in. Resurrection is not for people who have submitted themselves to broken relationships and have just settled for what people decide they will give you. Resurrection is not for that kind of person. Particularly when we begin to talk about radical resurrection. Say radical resurrection. Radical resurrection. This morning we're talking about how it is we can experience our radical resurrection. See, creation has a way of letting some things die so that they might produce fruit as new things, as you said on Friday. But what we see in this Easter narrative is that the entombment or the death that precedes resurrection is sometimes a necessary part of the experience. Sometimes it's necessary for you to be entombed. Sometimes it's necessary for you to be in the grave. Sometimes it's necessary for you to die to who you used to be, so that you could experience the resurrection of who you were created to be. And so Jesus is so benevolent in helping us to see that if I did it, you can do it too. But let's look at how he did it. One of the first things that he did when he was in the tomb was he realized that the tomb was not meant to hold him as a permanent resting place. See, what do tombs do? Tombs represent, or they symbolize, the final resting place. Tomb, when we are entombed, it is expected that we will stay right where we are. Many of us live our lives either entombed in our past or entombed to the expectations of others. We forget that we are spiritual. We forget that we are powerful. We forget that we have the capacity, because according to the scripture, there is a power that's working in us. But when you find yourself in the tomb, you have to ask yourself a few questions. Why am I allowing my past to dictate my present? When you're confined in the box, you have to ask yourself, do you really believe that this is what you deserve? When you find yourself in the tomb, you have to be willing to not let the experience dictate what you're capable of. And when you're in the tomb, never think that it's somebody else's fault that you are where you are. One of the things about being in the tomb is that oftentimes nobody expects you to come out of the tomb. Even in Jesus' experience, there were people around him who were not expecting him to come out of the tomb. Mary Magdalene, as well-intentioned as she was not coming to see that Jesus was not there, but she was coming to confirm that he was there. When she went and told Paul and John and they ran to the tomb, they ran not to confirm that he was not there, but to confirm that their expectation was so and that he would be there. There are many people who are looking for you, the living among the dead. There are some folks in your experience who, when they see the new you, they don't recognize you because they expect you to be just like you were the last time they saw you. They don't understand your new walk and your new talk. They don't understand your new swagger and your new perspective. They don't understand the new you because you can't be found living among the dead. But if you're not careful, even people who you've helped will be looking for you in the tomb. If you're not careful, even your faith will expect to find you where you are supposed to be. Even those who love you might stroll by, expecting to see you laying in the tomb. Some folks expect the visions that you have for yourself to die. Some people are hoping that your dreams and your wishes will die. Some people are hoping that you will just go ahead and lay down and let it all go. But we got news for them today because we are coming out. We are refusing to stay in dead situations, in dead experiences, in dead relationships. We're coming out of that nonsense so that the Christ in us could have its full expression. We're coming out today. We're going to have a radical resurrection today. Don't be looking for me among the dead. Oh, no, I can't be found there. I remember when you used to drink. No, I don't drink like that no more. I remember when we used to smoke. No, I don't smoke like that no more. I remember when we used to chase whatever we would chase. Yeah, I don't chase that no more. That state of consciousness is no longer where I am. Stop looking for me among the dead. I used to be able to call you any kind of name. I used to be able to call you B. Well, unless my name is B, don't call me. Don't be looking for the living among the dead. You can't find me there because I know there is a radical resurrection expecting me. And here is just something. See, you can't be ordinary and radical at the same time. If you intend to stay where you are, don't worry about being radical. And if you intend to be radical, get ready to move from where you are. But the two don't travel together. You rarely see creative people hanging out with people who don't want to do anything. You rarely see people who love themselves kicking it with people who don't love nobody. It's radical resurrection time. But understand that all the signs and symbols point to the fact that you are supposed to stay wherever you find yourself in your final resting place. Understand that naturally, say naturally, understand that naturally the environment and the conditions will be conducive to your resting at your final resting place. This is why it requires a radical approach, because there will be many things around you and about you and on top of you that you will be wearing or be donned in that will be designed to keep and preserve you in the death of your experience. This is so the case with Jesus as well. There are natural and ordinary trappings that exist in our souls that intend to keep us bound. But those things must be left behind. When we see Jesus come out of the tomb, there are a few things that are noticeable at first. The first thing is that the stone has been rolled away. Now, when you look around and you don't see nobody around to move the stone, you don't see any levers or guards around to move the stone, one of the questions that you have to ask yourself is that if Jesus couldn't move the stone and if nobody else moved the stone, how does the stone get moved? See, there are some big, insurmountable, unchallengeable, unconquerable elements and challenges that are in front of you, but I got news for you. When you align yourself with the mind of God, some things will just naturally start to move. See, it might be too big for you, but it's never too big. It might be too hard for you, but it's never too hard for God. I know it's big. I know it seems insurmountable, but that's only because you're looking at it with your human eyes. If you look at it with the eye that knows the same thing that put it there can move it, if you look at it with the eye that realizes it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, even though you don't have anything to receive it in yet, if you understand that God's will for you is not to be in tune, but rather for you to get up, when you get in alignment with what God has in store for you, things will naturally start to move. That's why Jesus said, speak to the mountain, not climb the mountain. See, because we are human, we think that our power is in our ability to climb and overcome the things. Oh, but when you know who you are and whose you are, you don't have to climb the obstacle. You can speak to the obstacle and say, I am not playing with you. Move out of my way because I am coming out. There are some large obstacles that don't seem like they can be moved. But every effect can be moved when you understand what the cause is. Let me drop this on you. Put this in your notes. All causation is mental. I'll tell you what I mean. Don't worry about it. All causation is mental. When we see Jesus, there are two elements that have him contained. Two of them represent a cause, but only one. Two of them represent an effect, but only one of them represents a cause. When we talk about cause and effect, remember that everything happens for a reason. When we talk about cause and effect, remember that every action and even every inaction has a consequence and produces a result. What I mean by this is, even if you don't take action, you are taking action. Even when you let people say stuff to you and you don't respond because you feel like you being super spiritual. Even when you mistake who you are and you see yourself as an object that you must put before the door that says welcome on it, and people walk on or over it. Even if you don't decide to change that behavior, your indecision about changing the behavior and you're not taking the action is an indication to them that it's all right to keep walking on you. But I'm here to tell you, when you understand that there is a radical resurrection for you, you will pick up the welcome mat and tell them you can't step here no more. All action and inaction have consequences and produce specific results. The decisions that we make, put this in your notes, the decisions that we make are causative, whether conscious or unconscious. And they produce corresponding outcomes and effects. So there is something in us that puts something outside of us in our way. Oh, that's good right there. Because if something in you puts something outside of you in your way, then something in you can move the something that's outside of you out of your way, and then you will be able to come out. Does that make sense? See, the large challenges appear to be too big for our faith. But like Peter, once you will find that there will be something that says to you, get up now, don't worry about what's in this cell, don't worry about what's in this tomb, don't worry about what you're going to take with you, and when you start to move, the Spirit of God moves before you. When we saw Jesus in the tomb or out of the tomb, one of the remnants that we saw left behind were the linen wrappings for his body. There were some linen wrappings in ancient times. When you made your transition, they would wrap you in fine linen. And the fine linen had the ability to preserve what was in the tomb. And so we sometimes wrap ourselves in things that make us comfortable and complacent. But you got to remember, these are garments of the grave. You have to be honest with yourself when you find yourself wrapped in the garments of the grave. You have to ask yourself, like, is this really what you want when you're wrapped in the garments of the grave? You have to ask yourself, is this what you're signed up for when you have on the garments of the grave? When you're entombed and wrapped in the garments of the grave, you have to ask yourself, am I making too many compromises that take me away from who I know myself to be? These are the garments of the grave. But when you decide that it's time for you to come out so that you might experience your radical resurrection, you don't wear grave garments out of the tomb. The grave garments cannot be worn for you once you decide that you're coming out. The challenge for many of us is we try to bring the old garments into the new experience. I think the scripture says it this way: you can't put new wine in old wineskins. Sometimes you can't even bring old people into new experiences. But I'm going to get off of that. And then we see separated. Say separated. We see in the tomb, as Peter and Paul looked in, we see the linens on one side, but then we see the head covering at another. We see the linens in one pile, but we see the head covering folded up nicely in another space. I believe that this is an indication to us that if we get the effect and the cause mixed up, if you think that you can fix the problem by working on what's happening outside of you, you will be working on something that can't help you fix it. Does that make sense? If you lose sight of the fact that it is the creative thought that helps you produce the solution, and you try to apply the creative thought to the external demonstration, what you will find is that the two are misaligned. But I'm happy this morning Because here's what I know about us. We have the power to resurrect. And many of us use it already. We use the power of resurrection, but sometimes we wake up the wrong things. Sometimes we use the power of resurrection to wake up things that ought to remain dead. Sometimes we use the power of resurrection to wake up old habits that put us in autopilot and modes of being and doing. Sometimes we wake up old, dead fears that circumvent our faith. Sometimes we wake up dead grudges and don't remember or realize that we are holding ourselves and others hostages to experiences that happened a long time ago. We know how to resurrect. It just depends on what we're trying to resurrect. Sometimes we wake up dead addictions, stuff we've moved away from a long time ago. The taste is not even in your mouth or in your system anymore. But just because somebody shows up and says, here, take a hit of this, you feel the pressure to succumb and come get away from dead experiences. Sometimes we resurrect dead wounds and we relive and retell the story. You know you heard this story 15 times. And you know the story gets more animated every time they tell it. I can't believe how she did me. She did me so wrong. I thought we were friends. We know how to resurrect. It just depends on what we will resurrect. Sometimes we resurrect dead arguments and dead beefs. Sometimes we resurrect dead relationships. We try to get back with people that we left for a reason. I'm not going to stay there long. Don't get nervous. And don't look at the person sitting next to you. You might have just invited them to Easter Sunday service feeling like there might be an opportunity for a little resurrection. Just keep looking straight ahead. They'll never think that I'm talking to you and them. There's a reason it didn't work. There's a reason it didn't work. Behavior is consistent. When people show you who they are, believe them. Stop making excuses for people. Stop trying to resurrect them when you haven't resurrected yourself yet. You know good and well you didn't marry the person you dated. You want me to move on? Yeah. If we married the person we dated, 50% of our marriages wouldn't end in divorce. That's a nugget. I'm leaving it right there. Tell your neighbor he's going on. Somebody's pulling. Stop pulling. Stop pulling. No. But we have, no, stop now. Somebody's gonna get mad. They're not gonna come back to church. They think you've been telling their business. It's okay. I'm done. I'm ready. I'm gone. I'm on to the next point. I just want us to be mindful that we have and we use the power of resurrection. I just want us to be mindful about what we are using it to accomplish, what we are using it to do. And so as followers of Jesus, we see in Jesus one who points us to the understanding use of the Christ principle. Say understanding and use of the Christ principle. Here is how we can begin to make our resurrections. If we understand what is within us and we use that which is at our disposal, we will find that we have everything we need in order to make our radical resurrection. If we understand the power that is working within us and we use that which we have at our disposal, we will be able to make radical resurrections. I believe that there's some value in understanding what a person has said or has done, because when you try to do what they did, you get a better understanding of who they are. Let me just take you to the book of Matthew. And let's see how it is that Jesus in the beginning begins to point out to us how we can use principles that point us to the power that is working within us. In verse 5, or in chapter 5, at verse 13, here is what he says about the people that he's talking to. He says, "You are the salt of the earth." I like it. I like that right there. He says that you are the salt of the earth, but then he says sometimes salt can lose its flavor. He says, you are the salt, but sometimes salt can lose its flavor. Anytime salt starts trying to be pepper, salt is in the process of losing its flavor. He says, you are the light of the world, but listen, when you understand that you are the light, you don't hide your light for nobody. There are some relationships, there are some opportunities, there are some experiences that no longer fit you. You have to stop playing small so that you can stay around a small group of people. When you are the light of the world, you have to be willing to be placed on a hill so that your light will shine and people will see it and give the glory to God. It's time for your radical resurrection. He says, listen. He says, you've heard that you should not murder. I'm telling you how to come out of the tomb. Put this in your notes. This is how you come out of the tomb. This is how you get out. This is how you get out. This is how you get out. You've heard that you shall not murder. Oh. But if you are angry at your brother or sister, he actually said it like that? Is he equating murder with anger? He says, if you insult, it's like being a fool. So if I understand this right, help me understand whether or not I understand this right. Don't get angry with nobody and don't insult nobody. That will help you experience your radical resurrection. He says, if you have beef with your brother and sister, before you come to the altar to let God see how holy you are, I don't have my glasses up here. Before you start telling people about how many classes you've had, before you start telling people about how much you pray and meditate and fast, before you start asking folk if they want to be delivered, if you have an issue with anybody, solve that issue first before you ever try to trick God into believing that you are something that you are, but something that you have not solved yet. I think it's time for a radical resurrection. He said, you've heard it said, oh, this is a good one right here, Jesus. You've heard it said that you shall not commit. Yes, those of you who know the word, say the word. Don't be scared. Because I want people to come. I want everybody to be my guest next week. I want you to come. I want you to be here next week. He says, you have heard it said that you shall not commit. It begins with the A and ends with the Y. Somebody say it to me. Oh, there you go. He said, You shall not commit adultery, but everyone who looks at somebody that they want with a lusting eye has already committed some form of adultery. See, here is the thing about temptation. You're only tempted by it because you want it. If you didn't want it, it wouldn't tempt you. You're not tempted by the funny looking guy. You're tempted by the... But listen, here is how he said we can have our radical resurrection if we just cut it off and cut it out. If you just cut it off and cut it out. In other words, reclaim control of your mind, reclaim control of your emotions, and stop trying to get everybody something else. He says, oh, you've heard it said that you should not swear falsely or carry out vows that have been made to the Lord, but if you don't swear, just let your words be yes, yes, and no, no. I believe your grandmother and your mother said it this way: if you don't have nothing good to say, just keep your mouth closed. There is too much unnecessary poison being shed in the universe when all we have to do is keep our mouth closed. Take a moment to pray before you say something you ought not say. Oh, he has more. He has more. This is how you make your radical resurrection. He said, you've heard it said that you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Ooh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. What is wrong with this man? He's telling us to work against all of the natural instincts. He's telling us to go against everything in us that is saying, if you say it one more time, I'm gonna take off on you like a rocket. But what we have to understand is that just like in the tomb, there were some natural dressings that we had to shake off. I know it might be natural for you to go off, but that don't mean you have to go off. You are a spiritual being living in a spiritual universe, governed by spiritual laws. Use your spiritual power. You got it. There's more. You ready for me to get away from here, ain't you? Say, go on to something else, preacher. I don't have nothing else. We're closing with this. This is going to take us home right here, because I want you to be able to make your radical resurrection. I want you to be able to come out. I want you to be able to shake off and shake loose all of those things that feel natural to you, because you're bigger even than the things that feel natural to you. You're bigger than the limitations of your own soul. He says, beware of practicing piety before others so that they might see you. He said, be willing to do what you do, whether or not somebody calls your name. He says, be willing to pray for other people, whether or not they know you're praying for them. This is how you experience a radical resurrection. This is how you come out of the tomb of your limitation. Give something to somebody else that you have not even given to yourself yet. This Jesus is one heavy man. He said, this is how we make our radical resurrection. Stop trying to serve two masters. Stop trying to serve two masters. Don't make your God, your job, your master. Don't make your relationship your master. Don't make the things that you think have power over you your master. You have to serve one and let the other go. Here is the thing. If you will submit and serve God, some of the other stuff will naturally fall away. You won't have to do anything about it. It'll be your radical resurrection. He said, don't worry. I got you. Your radical resurrection. He said, don't judge others. Because when you judge others and the speck that's in their eye, what you are doing is forgetting about the entombment that you're experiencing right now. Every time we judge somebody else, we roll a stone back over the grave. He says, don't judge. Leave them alone. Let them do what they have to do. They're doing the best that they can. But then he gives some good news. He says, this is also how you come out of the tomb. He says, you can ask, you can seek, and you can knock. He says, because everything you ask for will be given. Everything that you're seeking for will be provided. Every door that you knock on will be open. This is why you don't have time to judge other people, because there's some things you're supposed to be asking for, seeking after, and knocking on. And while you're talking about them, you're not getting what's yours. This is how you experience your radical resurrection. And then he says, in everything that you do to others, do it as you would have them do it to you. If you really want to experience your radical resurrection, if you really understand what I'm saying, and if you really intend to come out of the tomb, do to others as you would like to have it done to you. Because the person that you're next to is God in expression. The person that you're hating on is God in expression. The person you got issue with is God in expression. And what you will find is that the more you do it for others, the more the Christ light in you starts to shine and gives you more to do it with. Today, we don't just celebrate Jesus coming out. Today, we follow the example of the words, and we use what we understand so that we can come out. We have everything that we need in order to make our radical resurrection. God bless you.